This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and we've talked about our next guest a couple of times as she has posted some kind of reality check videos, is what I would say. She's a vlogger. She vlogs with the name Red Pill Black, and I use reality check purposely because, of course, that's a Matrix reference for you dorks out there like myself. And she's kind of broken through because of, straight talking posts like this in the wake of the Charlottesville contretemps.
Maybe it's me. Maybe I live in a bubble where black people and white people actually get along every day. Then I went to the gym this morning. A white girl signed me in and handed me a towel. No beef. I was trying to figure out how to use this weight machine, and a black trainer came over and helped me. No drama. I even went to the coffee shop thereafter, and a Spanish girl made my latte with an extra shot. All good in the hood. And it was a great day. So you'll have to forgive me for not realizing that the figurative racial sky was burning and it was up to me to choose a side. Because if I had known, I obviously would have picked none of you losers. Honestly, everybody involved in this fake racial war is a loser. So please, spare me the statuses and your white guilt and your black pride, because I really don't care to see it. You know what's going to happen if we keep down this path? We are actually going to allow the media to create those divisions where none existed prior.
For more, we're pleased to be joined by Red Pill Black. She is Candace Owens. Candace, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'm so excited to be able to talk to you guys. How are you doing?
Good. We've enjoyed your videos, and so have many of our listeners, so it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And just a little bit on what prompted you to start posting your views on the world around us, and how surprised were you by the popularity of them?
So to answer the first question, I was inspired by, obviously, the rise of Donald Trump. I was actually, people don't know this, I was a liberal a year and a half ago. So I was believing sort of this media hysteria, and then I had what everyone refers to as your red pill moment. And a year later, after watching, what they did to Trump, and then he won, and what they continued to do to Trump, I decided that I had enough and that I wanted to be in this game 100%. Flipped open my laptop, made a few videos, and to answer your second question, absolutely shocked that, I think by the third video, it was trending worldwide. It was dubbed in French and in Portuguese, and it let me know that I was really tapping into a sentiment of people just believing that we're being lied to by the media. And it's not just an American sentiment, it's one the world over.
Now, I know when you transform from a liberal to a conservative, you might lose some friends or family members along the way. What has been their reaction?
In terms of the friendships, it was a natural shedding, and it had to happen, I think, so I have no regrets there. A lot of me had always kind of questioned their intentions. Everyone was sort of a victim, and I've never been a victim. People have said to me, Candace, you say you're a Democrat, but I'm pretty sure there's no way that you could possibly be a liberal because you run on logic, and I always have run on logic. In terms of family, they've been largely very accepting of it. They love what I'm doing, and they just say, oh, that's just Candace. She's always thought for herself, and I have always had my own mind since I was a little girl. So nothing bad there, fortunately.
The thing that I liked about some of what you had to say, including that snippet we just played, is when you were talking about Charlottesville and then kind of comparing it to your daily life where you interact with people of all shapes and sizes, races and everything, and there's no problems, which is, I think, the experience of most people, and I think that was the point you were making.
Right, and it's interesting that people rely on their experiences that the TV tells them. They don't even rely on their own personal experience that they have every day.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing I liked about that was I'm not on anybody's side. This, like forcing me to choose a binary that I don't have to choose, and I'm not comfortable with either side of it. No, I don't have to choose it. I can just kind of voice my opinion wherever that lands on the spectrum on a particular issue.
Exactly. That's the number one misconception that people have. I do a lot of videos, and I speak out against Democrats and the leftist media, so they assume that I'm a Republican, and that couldn't be further from the truth. All I'm doing here, I speak out against Democrats because they've been the ones that have warped black thought, I think, the most, and they continue to warp black thought and have people focus on the wrong issues. but I am by no means a Republican. I just encourage people to think independently, and all I ever want people to do is to think for themselves.
I don't know if you're going to be vlogging about this, but American Airlines accused of racism after some disturbing incidents, and the NAACP is warning Black folks about flying American Airlines. Have you studied into that? Have you researched it?
I have not studied into that, but I'm not surprised. I mean, the NAACP is one of the worst groups for Black people. All they do is jump on a platform. They never talk about real issues that are facing the Black community, and it's all about PR for them. So I'm sure if they're involved, it's got to be absolute BS.
Do you ever get tired of kind of being asked questions to answer on behalf of a community that you share a racial profile with? In other words, as a Black person, let's talk about K through 12 education for Black children. As a Black person, let's talk about economic opportunity for Black people, as opposed to just you're talking to Candace about jobs, talking to Candace about how we should do K through 12 education in the 21st century.
Right.
You get the distinction I'm making?
Right. I understand exactly what you're saying, and the truth is I don't get tired of it because that is largely my mission, is to wake up the Black community. I think we've been sleeping. You can see with these groups like Black Lives Matter, it's just encouraging Black people to be angry and to only focus on the past, and that is never, ever, ever going to produce results in our futures. So I'm happy to be a leader. The Black community needs new leaders in general. So while I'm always happy to weigh in about other issues, just as Candace the person, I'm also happy to be a new voice in the Black community.
What do you do professionally before vlogging and all this stuff?
Yeah, so I worked for 3.5 years in private equity. That was primarily to pay off my student loans. Mm-hmm. I was at first an executive assistant, and then I was a vice president of the administration. I just did a lot of the hiring for them and traveled a lot with the CEO. And yeah, so that's pretty much my history in terms of what I did for work. And then that's why I had to really kind of say, I have to either go in all the way with this, or you can't just dip your toe into politics. I probably will never be able to go back to being a private person ever again.
Interesting.
Yeah. Where were you born and raised? Like, what's your...
I was born in White Plains, New York, and I was raised in Stamford, Connecticut. People always assume when they hear that I was raised really wealthy because it's Connecticut, but it couldn't be further from the truth. I grew up very poor.
Huh. And, going your professional background is interesting. So there's a entrepreneur in Chicago who's a friend of ours, friend of the show. He's a successful Black entrepreneur. He has a company called Killer Spin. It's a experiential ping pong company. It's really cool. His name's Robert Blackwell. He's a super sharp guy. He's actually like a math genius, but he goes off into these entrepreneurial ventures. And one of the things he says in terms of the inflection or the intersection point for the Black community in terms of kind of reshaping what's happening and how people are thinking about what the pathway to more opportunity, more success is. He thinks it's entrepreneurship, school choice, and some of the other arguments that have been made even from the center right are all well and good, but he really thinks it's about entrepreneurship, business starts, Black families supporting Black businesses, white people who want to be supportive, just doing business with Black people, not a program, just a mutually beneficial exchange like any other business transaction. And that's really the pathway to, a different trajectory for the Black community writ large in this country. Do you agree with that?
I agree. I don't necessarily agree that it's the number one thing, but it's a huge component. I always say that it starts with the family. The way that Black people have gotten here to begin with is the breakdown of the Black family. People don't understand. There's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I read it when I was probably way too young to read it. My uncle gave it to me, and it just shows you how different you grow up if you grow up around people that are wealthy, the dinner conversations that are different versus people that are very poor. A lot of our families, the fathers are away in prison. There was when Bill Clinton was in office, he basically destroyed an entire generation of Black families, and you don't understand what that does. So to encourage entrepreneurship, you would have to imagine that person grew up in an environment that they felt inspired enough to be an entrepreneur, that they had the self-confidence to be an entrepreneur. And unfortunately, that isn't the case. So ironically, I'm involved with a charity that's in Chicago that's trying to stomp out father absence, and that's kind of my number one 501c3 thing that I do. It's always for fathers and pro-fathers.
Are you trying to convince
what's the nonprofit?
C2EFA. It's called Cycling to End Father Absence. It's run by David Hirsch.
Oh, okay.
Is it against C2?
FA.
C2FA.
So it's cycling to end father absence. It's 21st Century Dads is the official name of the charity, and they do these cycling events all over the nation.
Oh, okay.
To raise money for different causes. So sometimes it's for incarceration, helping that transition when fathers get out. And other times it's for fathers that are raising special needs kids, because that's the number one reason that fathers walk away. People don't know this. In divorces, they have the highest divorce rates, parents of special needs. So I'm a traditionalist when it comes to the family, and I understand how much coming from a full family benefits a child later in life.
Yeah, how did your father, what impressions did he mark on your soul and on your character?
Yeah, so I have a father. My parents are divorced. My family is no example to any family of the way a family should be run. But yeah, my father is not present in my life currently. He lives on the West Coast, and even though he was always around when I was a child, he didn't mark any sort of leadership amongst, in my heart, I would say. My grandfather is kind of the person that ran the family and made sure everybody came and sat down and ate dinner and that sort of a thing. So I look up to my grandfather more than anything in the world.
I get the sense that you're a bit younger than us, particularly Amy. I'm just
Wow.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
I do have my ARP card, but okay. No, I'm kidding.
So I want to get your take on what's it seems to me you're not too far removed from a college campus, and what your take is on the race identity politics and gender identity and just all of the kind of non-behavioral characteristics identity politics that happens on college campuses that's spilled out into the body politic and the culture at large.
Right. So my opinion on it, I actually just got back from visiting Berkeley. I've been there twice so far this month. And I've kind of gone around and spoken to the students. And my opinion is that it's the perfect time. And again, I always go back to the idea that liberals and Democrats, this has kind of been their marketing shtick. They appeal to people that can vote, but really kind of know nothing about life. So when you're in college, you don't understand anything about rent, you don't have a mortgage. The perfect person to tap into and say, you've got to care about something. Don't you care about these social issues? And they don't understand that while their hearts are well intended, they don't really have a fully formed brain when it comes to understanding the real issues that we're facing in America. So what we're basically seeing is, in my opinion, a mass marketing campaign, a very well-funded, perhaps George Soros, where they just kind of implement, and they've been sort of changing the way that these children think. And the truth is, it doesn't just start in college. People talk about college all the time. My ideas, the reason that I was a liberal for so long is because it starts when you're in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Every time I opened a history book, Democrats were the heroes. As a black person, they freed us as slaves, they did this, they did that. Every opportunity you ever had, LBJ in office, you don't learn about the dark side of history. It's perfectly curated, so you almost have to go back and understand who okayed these textbooks in general. It's a mass brainwashing that starts, well beyond college. And I always say public education is not free. It's a brainwashing. It's a way to condition people to think.
Yeah, I mean, we completely glossed over the Japanese internment camps. I mean, that was just like, and then we did something over here. Oh, okay, next chapter. Right. I mean, honestly, we didn't even discuss it.
A couple of people were held. Yeah,
a couple of people. We questioned some Japanese families just to make sure that, they weren't spies here in America.
Right, exactly. And what's interesting, I'm glad you bring up Japanese families, they're always talking about white privilege. Who's doing the best in America right now? Asians. The Asians are doing the best, and no one talks about why. You want to know why? It's because they work hard. There is no privilege. The bottom line is that people have to work hard, no matter what their history is, if they want to have a productive future.
Unless you're a politician, there's political class privilege. That's a real thing.
Oh, of course.
All right, so I got to ask you this too. This is the burning issue of the day. This seems to me what's separating us from becoming a colorblind society. It's the Corn Pops box, of course. I'm talking about the Corn Pops cereal box. There's a brown Corn Pop cartoon on the cereal box, and he's a janitor Corn Pop. And so this was protested, and now Kellogg's, a Fortune 500 company, Kellogg's is responding to somebody tweeting about it, and they're redesigning their boxes over one person complaining and suggesting that's promoting racism.
Well, this is the same Kellogg's that pulled out all of their funding to Breitbart because people put pressure on them during the Donald Trump election. So I'm not surprised. Breitbart, whoever's running that company, is obviously super, super liberal. And look, it's their funeral. Let them do what they need to do. I mean, I think it's laugh out loud funny. It's ridiculous. And I just can't imagine. Don't you ever wonder these people that go around and look for reasons to be offended?
I know.
Yes.
It's got to
can't
be a
even
full-time
imagine being
job.
in the cereal aisle, right? Like, I can't imagine being in the cereal aisle and, like, walking away crying. It's just so funny to me. It's amazing, right? Like,
I tried to communicate to the cashier. I can't speak right now. The corn pops box. Candace.
Hey, it's going to be a collector's item. Trust me.
Yeah,
That
probably.
box.
Candace Owens at Red Pill Black. Red Pill Black is her vlogger handle. You obviously, from what you've heard today, you're going to want to continue to follow her and watch for her ruminations on the passing scene. Candace, pleasure to speak with you. Hope to do it again. Thanks for joining us.
thank you guys so much. Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. And we'll have you back soon. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show.